He promised to protect her, not to fall in love. When her father's billionaire partner takes her under his care, neither of them expects what destiny has planned. A story of loyalty, forbidden feelings, and a love that arrives when it's least expected. Tap the like button, subscribe, and get ready for a romance that will melt even the coldest hearts. The pecan pie was still warm when Nora Callahan pushed open the glass door of Hale Investments, and that was exactly when she realized 3 things. First, she was late. Second, the heel of her boot had just snapped. Third, and most unsettling, Landon Hale was watching everything from his 10th floor office window with that serious expression that always made her stomach do a small, traitorous flip. He always seemed to notice when she arrived, as if he had a personal radar for Friday visitors carrying homemade pies, and Nora honestly didn't know what to do with that. Every Friday, Sophie muttered over the phone as Nora limped across the marble lobby. You cross half of Nashville with a hot pie for your dad's partner, and that man is always at the window like he's waiting for the highlight of his day to walk through the door. You know you could just have it delivered, right? Sophie, it's a tradition, Nora sighed, waving to the security guard who already knew her. Dad always brought pecan pie to the Friday meetings. It's my way of keeping his memory alive in the business. Uh-huh. And the fact that he always finds an excuse to keep you there 15 minutes longer is just executive efficiency. He's polite. That's what executives do. Sophie laughed. Girl, polite executives send thank you emails. They don't make up questions about your final project just to hear you talk with that sparkle in your eyes. You see romance in everything, and you pretend not to see the obvious. Sophie paused dramatically. But fine, keep bringing your innocent little pies to the well-dressed wolf who calls you architect, even though you've got 2 semesters left to graduate. Nora hung up before her friend could continue with her romantic conspiracy theories. The elevator dinged on the 10th floor, and the doors opened to Landon Hale's kingdom. Glass, brushed steel, a panoramic view of Nashville, and that blend of polished wood and strong coffee scent that always did strange things to her breathing. 15 minutes late, architect, his voice echoed before. She even saw him, deep, amused, with that teasing undertone that was never entirely professional. I was starting to think you'd given up on me. Landon was leaning against his office doorway, arms crossed, crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a casual Friday concession that somehow made him more intimidating, not less. His dark brown hair was slightly tousled, like he'd run his hand through it one too many times. Nora lifted her chin. 15 minutes isn't late, mister. Punctuality. It's strategic arrival. His half smile widened. Strategic, or do you just enjoy making me wait? Broadway traffic was impossible, and she lifted the foot with the broken heel. I had a little accident at your doorstep. His gray-blue eyes, far too observant, flicked briefly to her foot before returning to her face, something dangerously close to genuine amusement glinting there. So you literally limped all the way up here, with a hot pie. He pushed away from the door frame and walked toward her with that quiet confidence that made it seem like he owned not just the building, but all of Tennessee. Should I feel honored or concerned about your level of stubbornness? It's not stubbornness. Nora maneuvered around him to enter the office, acutely aware of how much smaller the space felt when he was near. It's commitment. Big difference. He followed her in, closing the door with a soft click, always with the quick comeback. Your father would be proud. The mention of her father tightened something in her chest, but Nora didn't let it show. He used to say quick answers were a sign of sharp thinking, among other traits you clearly inherited. Landon leaned back against his desk, watching as she opened the box to reveal the golden pie. Intelligence, determination, and that irritating habit of being right more often than you should. Nora looked at him, trying to decide if that was a compliment or a provocation. Probably both. Irritating is an interesting compliment coming from someone who spends his week disagreeing with people in boardrooms. Touché. He grabbed a fork from the drawer, cut a generous slice of the pie, and tasted it slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. Perfect. As always, you have a gift for creating things that are impossible to resist. There was something in the way he said it, something layered with meaning. Nora felt her cheeks heat. It's just pie, Landon. No, He cut another piece, but this time held the fork out toward her. Nothing is just anything when you put your heart into it. She took the fork. Their fingers didn't quite touch, but close enough for her to notice the warmth, and brought the bite to her lips, trying to ignore the way he was watching every movement with more than polite interest. "So," he said casually, though there was a studied edge to the casualness, "how's the final project going?" "Still, redesigning that loft in Germantown." Nora blinked, surprised he remembered. "Still, I'm in the final stage. Presentations next week. I bet you'll impress the professors." "And how would you know? You've never seen my work." Something flickered across his face, too quickly for her to fully catch. "Let's just say I have reliable sources." "Sources?" Nora frowned. "What kind of sources?" "The kind that reads Nashville lifestyles and recognizes talent when they see it." He pushed off the desk and walked toward the window, hands in his pockets. "The loft you designed for your cousin's friend was in the September issue. I saw the photos. It looked impressive, architect." Nora felt the ground shift slightly beneath her feet. "You looked up my work?" "Looked up sounds invasive." He glanced over his shoulder, that half-smile returning. "I just keep myself informed about promising designers in Nashville. How convenient that I happen to be one of them." "It's not convenience, it's attention." He turned fully, and suddenly the air in the room felt heavier. "You have a gift, Nora, for seeing beauty where others see only empty structures, for transforming spaces into something that matters." She didn't know what to say. Professional praise coming from Landon Hale, a man who had built an empire by spotting potential before anyone else, wasn't exactly what she'd expected when she woke up that morning. "Thank you," she murmured. "That means a lot. It's just the truth." He tilted his head slightly, studying her in a way that made Nora feel both exposed and seen. "Something you still have trouble accepting when it's about yourself. I accept compliments just fine." "No," you blush and change the subject. The amusement was back in his voice. "Like you're doing now." Nora crossed her arms. "I'm not blushing. You are." He pointed casually at her cheeks. "There, and there, a particularly charming shade of pink, if I may say. You're—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Observant? Insightful? Brutally honest? Provocative," she finished, unable to stop the smile tugging at her lips. "Ah." Landon took a step toward her, and Nora had to remind herself to breathe. "But you like provocations, don't you, architect? Otherwise you wouldn't keep firing back with such creativity." "I fire back because someone has to keep your ego in check." "My ego is perfectly in check, thank you." He stopped at a distance that was technically professional, but somehow didn't feel like it. "But I do admire your dedication to the cause." They stood there for a moment, looking at each other with that strange mix of amusement, challenge, and something else neither of them was ready to name. Then Nora blinked and stepped back, breaking the moment. "I should go. I have class at 3. Interior design or history of architecture." "Did you actually look up my class schedule?" "I didn't have to." That small, irritating smile again. "You mentioned it on a Friday, 3 months ago. Something about wanting to kill your professor for assigning Art Deco work during finals." Nora froze mid-step toward the door. "You remember that?" "I remember a lot of things you say, Nora." The way he said her name, slow, deliberate, made something tighten low in her stomach. "Maybe I pay more attention than you think." She had no response for that. No response for the intensity in his eyes, for the way he looked at her as if she were a puzzle he was determined to solve. "Landon, why do you do this?" "Do what?" "This." She gestured vaguely between them. "The teasing. Remembering random things I say, calling me architect when I'm still just a student." He went quiet for a moment, and she saw something flicker across his face, something that looked a lot like vulnerability before he pushed it back beneath the surface. "Because your father made me promise I'd look after you," he said finally, his voice lower. "And looking after someone to me means paying attention, making sure you're okay, that you're reaching your potential. I don't need a babysitter, Landon." "No." A soft, almost sad smile touched his lips. "You need someone who sees how capable you are, and reminds you of it when you forget." Something tightened in her throat. "Is that all? A promise to my dad?" His eyes met hers, and for a suspended, charged moment she saw something there that wasn't just loyalty to an old friend. It was something more, something that scared and thrilled her in equal measure. But then he looked away, breaking the connection. "You'll be late for class, architect." His voice was controlled again, professional. "And I have a conference call in 10. Nora nodded, picking up her bag with slightly trembling fingers. At the door, she paused and turned. "Back. Landon?" "Yes? Thank you for paying attention, for caring." He didn't answer, just nodded, his jaw tight in that way she was starting to recognize, the look he had when he was holding back words. She left before either of them could make that moment more complicated. Sophie was waiting in the parking lot, sitting on the hood of her car with 2 bottles of iced tea. "Sophie, what are you doing here?" "I was nearby and thought I'd bring you a drink." "So?" she asked the moment Nora approached. "How was the weekly pie delivery to the man who gives you flirty nicknames?" "He doesn't," Nora sighed. "Architect isn't a flirty nickname. It's teasing." "Oh, sweetheart." Sophie handed her a bottle. "A nickname is teasing when it comes from a man who clearly enjoys seeing you flustered." "I don't get flustered." "Did you blush? Did he comment on it? How did you—" Sophie laughed. "Because I know you, and because every man who likes a woman eventually comments on how cute she looks when she's flustered. He didn't say I was cute. He said, a particularly charming shade of pink." "Oh my God." Sophie put a hand dramatically over her heart. "That's even more romantic. He's literally writing poetry about the way you blush." "It's not poetry, it's a knowing observation." "Detailed observation, you mean?" Her friend gave a knowing grin. "Men don't notice details like that unless they're investing their attention. If you catch my drift." Nora took a long sip of tea, refusing to respond. Because the truth she could barely admit to herself, was that Sophie was right. Landon paid attention. He remembered little things, noticed details, teased her in ways that felt designed to make her smile even when she tried to stay serious. And Nora was starting to like it more than was safe. "Sophie? If a man gives you a teasing nickname, does that mean something?" Her friend turned to her with a conspiratorial, all-knowing smile. "Honey, when a man gives you a nickname that's just yours, when he teases you just to see your reaction, and when he pays attention," she paused dramatically, "that doesn't mean something. It means everything." Nora swallowed hard. "Even if he's 12 years older, and was my dad's best friend and business partner, and is technically my, unofficial financial guardian? Especially because of that." Sophie leaned in. "Because he's fighting every logical reason not to care, and yet he's here, every Friday, waiting by the window like a dog waiting for its owner to come home." "You've used that analogy today already." "Because it's still true." Nora laughed in spite of herself. And as she drove back to campus with the October sun spilling golden light over Nashville, she realized something. Fridays had stopped being about honoring her father's memory. They had become about Landon, about the way he looked at her, about the way he teased her, about the way he made her feel seen, and that dangerous, exhilarating realization was something Nora wasn't ready to examine too closely. Not yet. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours since that conversation in the office where Landon had teased her until she blushed, and then casually recalled random details about her life as if they were important. Nora had kept up with the Friday visits. She kept bringing the pecan pie. She kept the tradition alive. But something had shifted. The way he said architect now carried a softer tone. The way she called him Mr. Punctuality had less bite and more playfulness. It was as if they were slowly building a language of their own, made of teasing, half smiles, and loaded pauses. And Nora wasn't entirely sure what to do with that. Now, standing in the parking lot of Franklin Estate, a historic 1840 mansion being converted into a boutique hotel, she wondered if the universe had a sense of humor, or if it just liked making things complicated. Because, of course, the lead investor was Landon Hale, and she was going to have to work with him for 6 weeks. Meetings, reviews, close, professional proximity. "Breathe," Sophie instructed over the phone. "You're a professional. He's a professional. You'll talk about Victorian wainscoting and color palettes, and it'll be super boring. Since when is historical design boring? It's not, but I'd pretend it is if it would stop you from panicking." "I'm not panicking." You're using that high-pitched voice that means you're considering fleeing to Mexico." Nora hung up. She inhaled deeply 3 times, grabbed her worn but trusted leather portfolio, a gift from her dad, and stepped out of the car. The mansion was breathtaking under the October light. Red brick walls laced with golden ivy, columns whispering stories of 19th century balls and dinners, stained glass windows painting the floors with the colors of an old church. "Punctual this time," his voice came from somewhere to her left. "Impressive, architect. You're improving." She turned and froze, because Landon Hale was wearing jeans and a gray flannel shirt, sleeves rolled up, work boots that had clearly seen real construction sites. He looked different, less CEO and more real man, dangerously more attractive that way. "I'm always on time," she replied, forcing her voice to sound normal. "You're the one with unrealistic expectations about Nashville traffic." He approached with that easy stride that made it seem like he owned not just the building, but all of Tennessee. Or maybe you just have a special talent for finding non-existent traffic jams. They're not non-existent. They're strategically located, like your strategic arrivals. Exactly. He stopped in front of her, and Nora had to lift her chin slightly to meet his gaze, those blue-gray eyes gleaming with amusement that went beyond professional courtesy. "You know," he said, tilting his head, "most people just say, 'Sorry, I'm late.' You turn it into a verbal, evasive art form. And you turn simple observations into interrogations. You should have been a lawyer. My sister already holds that title in the family. One is plenty." "You have a sister?" Nora blinked, realizing how little she actually knew about his personal life. "Eleanor, 2 years older, infinitely bossier." He gestured toward the mansion. "And coincidentally, she's inside reviewing the project contracts, ready to meet the heavy artillery of the Hale family." Nora swallowed. "Is she intimidating?" "She's a corporate attorney. Intimidation is literally part of the job description." Landon gave that half smile. "But don't worry. I warned her to be restrained. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be." Eleanor Hale was everything Nora had, expected and more. Tall, elegant, with the same dark brown hair as her brother, cut into a perfectly straight long bob, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than Nora's car. And she was looking at Nora the way someone examines a witness in court. "So you're the famous Nora," Eleanor said, extending a hand with a firm grip. "The Friday pie girl." Nora felt her cheeks heat. "I didn't know I was famous." "Oh, you are." Eleanor shot her brother a meaningful look. "Landon won't stop talking about your exceptional talent and unique architectural vision. I started to think you had 3 heads or something." "Ellie," Landon warned, voice low. "What?" She feigned innocence. "I'm just contextualizing how enthusiastically you sold her work." Nora glanced between them, realizing a whole silent conversation was happening, the kind only siblings could have. "Well, I hope I live up to the expectations," she said diplomatically. "Oh, I'm sure you will." Eleanor smiled, but there was something sharp and perceptive in that smile. Landon's rarely wrong about investments. Or people. "Eleanor has to go," Landon interjected, gently steering his sister toward the door. "Don't you have a deposition or something to terrify?" "Actually, yes." She grabbed her folder, then paused beside Nora. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Nora. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again. A lot more often, if my brother has anything to say about it." "Ellie, I'm going." She waved as she left, but not before stage whispering loud enough for Nora to hear. "She's exactly like you described. Adorable." When the door shut, the silence that followed was awkward. "Sorry about that," Landon said, running a hand through his hair. "She has 0 filters. She seems fun. She's a nightmare." But his voice held affection. "A well-intentioned nightmare who thinks she knows more about my life than I do." "And does she?" He looked at her, then something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. "Sometimes. Annoyingly." They spent the next hour touring the mansion, Landon pointing out architectural details while Nora scribbled frantic notes. But there was something different now, a new awareness in the air between them. Every time he leaned close to show her a carved detail in the wood, she caught the scent of cedar and something uniquely him. Every time she lit up explaining an idea, she caught him watching her with an attention that went far beyond professional interest. They were circling around something neither of them was quite ready to name. "So you want to preserve the original staircase," he said, studying her sketches spread across the old dining room table. "But add a hidden elevator behind this panel?" "Invisible functionality," Nora confirmed, tapping the paper with her pencil. "Tourists want the historical experience, but we also need modern accessibility." "Smart." He leaned in closer, his shoulder almost brushing hers. "Have you thought about how the panel will integrate with the existing wainscoting? I'll use reclaimed wood from the same era and artificial aging techniques to make it look original." "Of course you will." There was genuine admiration in his voice. "Because you never do anything halfway, do you, architect?" Nora turned to reply and realized, too late, how close he was. Close enough to see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes. Close enough to notice the way his jaw tightened just slightly when he looked at her like that. The words faltered. "You what?" His voice was lower now, almost a whisper. "I believe in doing things right. That much I've gathered." They stood there, locked in a gaze that lasted 3 seconds and an eternity all at once. Then Landon stepped back, creating just enough space for air to flow again. "Come on," he said, his voice slipping back into its professional register. "There's something I want to show you." The upstairs ballroom was everything Nora had dreamed of when she'd read about Southern architecture. Ceilings painted with skies and cherubs, a crystal chandelier still wrapped in a protective canvas, and floor-to-ceiling French windows framing autumn gardens bathed in gold. And in the center, impossible, beautiful, completely unexpected, sat a black grand piano. "You brought a piano," she whispered, walking toward the instrument as if in a trance. "The original owner was a music teacher," Landon explained, following at a respectful distance. "She gave recitals here every summer. When the family sold the estate, the piano came with it." Nora ran her fingers reverently across the keys. "Will it stay here?" "If you think it works with the design." "It does." She looked at him, genuine excitement replacing the earlier tension. "It's perfect. It's the soul of the space." Something flickered across his face. "Satisfaction, maybe, for having guessed right." "I thought you'd say that." "How did you know?" "Because I pay attention, architect." He moved closer to the piano. "You mentioned months ago that spaces need emotional anchors, something that tells a story beyond function. You remember that?" Nora was genuinely surprised. "I told you I pay attention." He pulled out the piano bench. "Do you play?" "I learned as a kid. My grandmother taught me. Play something for me." It wasn't a request. It was a gentle challenge. And Nora never backed down from a challenge. She sat down, and before she could fully process what was happening, Landon sat beside her on the bench, not touching, but beside her. Her heart quickened. "You're going to make me nervous watching me like that," she muttered. "Good." There was amusement in his voice. "You make me nervous every Friday. Fair's fair." She glanced at him, startled. "I make you nervous." "Architect," he said. And there was something raw in the way he said it now. "You have no idea." Nora swallowed hard and placed her fingers on the keys before she could think too much about it. The melody that came out was the one she had begun composing at 12 years old, soft and melancholic, with a lingering sense of suspended expectation, notes that asked a question without answering, waiting for something that hadn't arrived yet, something the 12-year-old girl hadn't known how to name, and the 22-year-old woman was still searching for. She had never finished the song. She didn't know how. When the last note faded into the air, leaving only the echo and the promise of something more, the silence that followed was thick. "Nora." His voice was low, almost reverent. "That was unfinished," she interrupted quickly. "It's a song I never finished. I started it as a kid, but I never found the right ending, never figured out what it was trying to say. Maybe some things don't need endings." Landon was looking at her in a way that made breathing difficult. "Maybe they're more beautiful that way, open, full of possibility." She turned to face him, and that was a mistake, because he was right there, on the same bench, those impossible eyes fixed on her. And suddenly Nora realized this wasn't just Fridays and teasing and professional attention. It was something real and terrifying and utterly inappropriate. "Landon, she didn't know." how to finish the sentence. He lifted his hand slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear. The touch was brief, chaste, entirely appropriate, and absolutely devastating. "You have a gift," he said softly, "for bringing forgotten things back to life, spaces, melodies." He paused. "People." "Landon." His phone rang. Of course. He closed his eyes briefly, frustration tightening his jaw, then pulled back, the distance suddenly feeling far too physical. "I have to take this," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "It's about Chicago." "It's fine." Nora stood quickly, almost tripping. "I need to go anyway. I have to review the technical drawings." "Nora, wait." She stopped, but didn't turn. "Thank you for playing, for letting me hear something that personal." It was nothing. It was everything. The intensity in his voice made her turn back. To me, it was everything. They held each other's gaze for a long moment, and in his face she saw the same conflict that twisted inside her. Attraction versus propriety. Desire versus duty. What was right versus what felt right. She left before she could do something stupid, like ask what it meant. Or worse, admit that she wanted it to mean something. Downstairs, Landon's father was waiting in the foyer, a tall man with silver hair and the same piercing eyes his son had inherited, softened by decades of wisdom. "You must be Nora," he said, extending a warm hand. "William Hale, I've heard a lot about you." "Mr. Hale." She shook his hand, surprised by his genuine kindness. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "The pleasure's mine. Henry spoke about you with such pride." There was nostalgia in his smile. "He said you inherited his eye for beauty in forgotten places. I can see he was right." "Thank you." Nora's chest tightened at the mention of her father. He taught me to pay attention." "And you learned well." William looked around the mansion, hands tucked casually in his pockets. "Landon brought me here yesterday to see the early sketches. He spent half an hour talking about your vision for this place. I haven't seen him this excited about a project in a long time." There was something in the way he said project, not with sarcasm, but with a gentle weight that made Nora wonder if he was talking only about architecture. "It's a special space," she said carefully. "It deserves to be treated with respect." William studied her for a moment, those wise eyes seeming to see past the words. "Landon deserves that too. Respect, care. He's carried a lot of responsibility on his own since starting the company. Sometimes I forget he still needs reminders that life isn't only about work." Nora didn't quite know what to say. There was something profound in that remark, a message she wasn't sure she was interpreting correctly. Landon appeared at the top of the staircase at that moment, and something flickered across his face when he saw his father speaking with Nora. Not horror, but something closer to watchful apprehension. "Dad," he descended the stairs with that measured calm of his. "I didn't know you were coming by today. I stopped in to take you to lunch, but I see you're busy." William glanced between the two of them with that paternal expression that didn't judge, only observed. "Nora, it was a pleasure to finally meet you. Henry would be grateful. To know that someone so talented is honoring spaces like this. Thank you, Mr. Hale." "William, please." He smiled warmly. "Any friend of my son is welcome in the family." "She's the project's designer, Dad." Landon cut in quickly, his voice a shade too loud. We're working together professionally." "Of course." William nodded, but his eyes gleamed with silent understanding. "Professionally." As I said. A moment of silence followed, the three of them standing there, Landon visibly uncomfortable, William quietly amused, and Nora caught between embarrassment and curiosity about what exactly Landon's father was thinking. "I should go," Nora finally said. "I have revisions to finish." "Of course." William extended his hand again, his grip firm but kind. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Nora. I'm sure this project is in excellent hands." "Thank you, Mr. Hale. It was a pleasure meeting you as well." She gave Landon a quick wave. He stood tense in the middle of the stairs and left. William remained in the entryway, watching through the window as Nora walked to her car. There was something thoughtful in his gaze, something knowing. A small smile touched his lips. Landon came down the rest of the stairs slowly, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual and failing miserably. "So," William said, still looking out the window as Nora's car disappeared down the gravel drive. She's exactly as you described. I didn't describe her in any special way, Landon countered, folding his arms. No. William finally turned toward his son, that smile still lingering. Then I must have imagined the 30-minute conversation last week about her exceptional talent for honoring historic spaces and the unique way she sees beauty in forgotten places. That was a professional observation. William walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder with the weight of decades of wise fatherhood. Son, I know your professional observations. That one had a different tone. Landon closed his eyes briefly. Dad, please, not you too. To what? His father's voice was gentle without judgment. I'm just observing, the way parents do. Eleanor's done enough observing for the whole family. William chuckled softly. Your sister has no filter, I do. But that doesn't mean I don't see. And what I see is good, Landon. It's something I haven't seen in you for a long time. Landon didn't respond, his jaw tight, staring at the spot where Nora's car had disappeared. And William, as wise as ever, didn't push. He just smiled, because some fathers know when their children are already discovering truths on their own, and interfering would only get in the way. Nora heard none of that conversation, but as she drove back to Nashville, the radio playing softly and the afternoon sun painting the sky in gold, she realized something. William Hale had looked at her the same way her father used to, with that silent approval that said, you're on the right path without needing words. And somehow, that mattered. It mattered more than it should have. Sophie was waiting in the college parking lot, coffee in hand and a grin that screamed, I knew it. So, how was it working with Mr. Punctuality? Complicated, Nora admitted, accepting the coffee. Complicated like he's annoying, or complicated like, I realized he looks at me like I'm the most fascinating thing in the world. And I don't know what to do with that. Nora took a long sip. The second, definitely the second. Oh, honey. Sophie pulled her into a hug. Welcome to the club of women who fall for completely inappropriate men. I'm not in love yet. You're not in love yet. Sophie pulled back, gripping her shoulders. But you will be. Because he sees you, Nora. Really sees you. And men who truly see you. Those are impossible to resist. And as she walked into her architectural history class, 10 minutes later, Nora realized Sophie was right. She wasn't in love. Yet. But she was dangerously, terrifyingly close. And Landon Hale, with his teasing, his attention, and the way he looked at her like she mattered, was making it impossible to resist. 4 weeks working on the Franklin Estate project. 4 weeks of weekly meetings that always stretched longer than necessary. 4 weeks of Landon finding excuses to review details that were already perfect, and Nora accepting those excuses without questioning, because deep down she didn't want the meetings to end either. Fridays continued. The pecan pie kept appearing. The teasing grew sharper, more personal, more laden with something neither of them was ready to name, but something had shifted since the day she met William and Eleanor. There was a new awareness in the air, as if an invisible line had been crossed without either of them realizing exactly when. And now, standing on the rooftop of the Hale, investments building on a Friday night, with Nashville sparkling below like an upside-down sky full of stars, Nora wondered if she'd been wise to accept Landon's invitation. Are you regretting coming? His voice came from behind her, followed by the sound of glasses clinking. Nora turned. Landon was holding 2 wine glasses, wearing jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, his uniform for after-hours weekend work, as she'd learned. No, she replied honestly. Just wondering if this is a good idea. Reviewing the final details of the project with a panoramic view and decent wine? He stepped closer, offering her a glass. Sounds perfectly professional to me. Yes, so professional that we're doing it at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, on a rooftop, with wine. Architect, he said, that nickname now layered with so much meaning. If I wanted to be professional, I would have scheduled it in the conference room at 2 in the afternoon with weak coffee and stale corporate cookies. And why didn't you? His eyes found hers, and there was something disarmingly honest in his gaze. Because I wanted to see you under the city lights. I wanted to know if they'd make your eyes shine the way I imagined. The air left her lungs. Landon, and they do. He took a sip of wine, never breaking eye contact. In case you were wondering, Nora didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to respond to something so direct, so exposed. So she did what she always did when he disarmed her. She teased back. "Is that your way of saying I look pretty, Mr. Punctuality? Because I can assure you there are more straightforward ways." "Oh, I know more straightforward ways." He leaned against the railing, body turned toward her. "But where's the fun in that? You're so interesting when I try to be subtle." "You call this subtle? Compared to what I actually want to say?" A slow, dangerous smile. "Absolutely." Her heart raced. "And what do you actually want to say?" Landon was silent for a long moment, studying her face under the soft rooftop lights. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, more serious. "That I spend all week waiting for Friday. That I make up excuses so our meetings last longer. That I memorize little things you mention because everything about you seems important." He paused, his jaw tightening. "And that it's driving me completely insane, because I shouldn't be feeling any of this." Nora gripped the glass tightly, trying to process. "Why shouldn't you? You know why." He pushed off the railing, putting distance between them that felt far too tangible. "You're my best friend's daughter. You're 22. You're just starting your career, and I'm 34 with responsibilities with an entire company depending on me to make rational choices. And this?" She gestured between them. "Isn't rational? This," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper, "is not rational at all." They stood there looking at each other across the 2 meters that felt simultaneously too vast and too small. "Landon, Nora took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I wait for Fridays too. I make up excuses to stay longer. And when you call me architect in that tone," she stopped, feeling her face heat. "It does something weird to my heart." His eyes darkened. "Nora, don't what? Don't be honest? Don't admit that something is happening here? Don't give me hope." The words came out rough, pained. "Because if you do, I'll want things I can't have. I'll want to kiss you. I'll want to find out if you're as sweet as I imagine. I'll want—" He stopped abruptly, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Nora set her glass down on the nearby table, her hands trembling slightly. "And what if I want that too? Then you're being reckless." But he didn't back away when she took a step toward him. "Because I'm not good for you, Nora. I'll hurt you. I'll let you down. Are you going to decide what's good for me now?" Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "Because I'm an adult, Landon. I can make my own choices, even bad ones if I want to." "I'd be a bad choice? I don't know." She took another step, now close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. "But I'd like to find out." For 3 heartbeats, he didn't move. He just looked at her with that intensity that always made Nora feel both exposed and completely seen. Then slowly, giving her time to pull away, to change her mind, to be sensible, he raised his hand and touched her face. Calloused fingers traced the line of her jaw. His thumb brushed her lower lip with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the tension in his body. "You have no idea," he murmured, his voice rough, "how much I've been holding back." Then stop holding back. That was all he needed to hear. Landon closed the distance between them in one fluid movement, his other hand sliding to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair. He paused for a second, one last moment of hesitation, giving her one last chance to retreat. Nora didn't retreat. She leaned in, and it was like striking a match. The kiss was everything. Soft at first, almost reverent, as if he were tasting something precious. Warm, firm lips moved against hers with a restraint that spoke of weeks of pent-up desire. Then Nora sighed, small, involuntary, and something broke in him. The kiss deepened, became more urgent, more real. The hand at her neck tightened slightly, angling her face just right. The other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. Nora clung to his shoulders because her legs had forgotten how to function, and her brain had given up on forming coherent thoughts. There was only this, the taste of wine on his lips, the scent of cedar wrapping around her, the way he kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been holding his breath for years. When they finally pulled apart, because breathing was unfortunately necessary, Landon rested his forehead against hers, breathing heavily, his eyes still closed. "Nora," he whispered, and there was something reverent in the way he said her name. We can't. Don't finish that sentence. She tightened her grip on his shoulders. Don't ruin this by being logical. A low laugh escaped him, the sound vibrating in his chest against hers. Logic went out the window the moment you walked into my office with that first pie 2 years ago. So you, she leaned back just enough to see his face. This has been going on for a while? Architect, he said, opening his eyes and revealing that stormy gray-blue darkened by desire. I've been lost since you were 20, standing there with those huge eyes after your father's funeral, telling me you'd keep the pie tradition alive because promises matter. That was 2 years ago. I know. You waited 2 years. You were too young, too vulnerable, and He touched her face again, as if he couldn't stop himself. I promised Henry I'd take care of you, not take advantage of you. This isn't taking advantage. Nora covered his hand with hers. This is, she searched for the right word. Inevitable. Inevitable, he repeated, considering. That's one way to see it. There's another? Dangerous, complicated, potentially disastrous for both of us. But, he pulled her closer, his lips brushing her forehead. I don't care anymore. Not when you look at me like that. Not when you let me kiss you and kiss me back like it means something. It does. Her voice came out in a whisper. To me, it does. Landon kissed her again, softer this time, slower, as if he were memorizing the feeling. When they pulled apart, he kept her in his arms, just holding her, his chin resting on the top of her head while Nashville glittered around them. So what do we do now? Nora asked against his chest. Honestly, I have no idea. She felt his quiet laugh. This is completely new territory for me. You've never wanted someone like this. The admission was simple, honest. Never felt like I had something to lose if it didn't work out. Nora pulled back to look at him. And now you do? Now. He touched her face again as if he couldn't stop. I feel like I have everything to lose. Her heart tightened. Then don't lose it. She leaned closer. Just stay. Let this be whatever it is. It doesn't need a name yet. And your mom, my mom's going to love you. She already likes you. Nora smiled. She says you have honest eyes and working hands. And Eleanor's going to kill me. Eleanor already knows. She looked at me the day we met like she knew exactly what was going on. She always knows. It's annoying. And your dad? My dad will probably make embarrassing jokes and remind me to do the right thing at the worst possible times. Landon sighed. But he'll approve. He always approves when I finally do something that isn't about work. Nora laughed, and the sound made something in his face soften. I love that sound, he murmured. My laugh? Everything. Your laugh. The way you furrow your brow when you're focused. The way you talk about architecture like it's poetry. He paused. The way you look at me like I'm more than just a man with status, money, and responsibilities. You are more. She touched his face, mirroring the gesture he'd made so many times. You're kind, attentive, funny when you think no one's watching, and you look at me like I'm everything, he finished. Because you are. And then he kissed her again, beneath the stars and the Nashville lights, sealing something that had begun with pies and teasing and had grown into something far bigger, far scarier, far more certain. They stayed on the rooftop until nearly midnight, talking about everything and nothing. Plans for the project, childhood stories, dreams neither of them had ever spoken aloud before. And when Landon finally walked her to her car, he kissed her again against the driver's side door, slow and deep, as if trying to memorize the feeling. Nora, he said against her lips, this changes everything. I know. It won't be easy. People will talk. They'll judge the age difference, my connection to your father. Let them talk, she smiled. Didn't you teach me that good things are rarely easy? I said that. You say a lot of wise things when you think I'm not listening. And were you? Listening. Always. She leaned in for another kiss. But I'm always listening. Landon smiled against her lips. That genuine, rare smile she was beginning to realize was hers alone. Next Friday? He asked. Pie and teasing? Among other things. His gaze darkened in a promising way. Definitely other things. Nora felt her face warm but held his gaze. among other things then. And as she drove home, her lips still tingling and her heart beating to a different, faster, livelier rhythm, Nora realized something fundamental. She wasn't falling for Landon Hale anymore. She had already fallen, completely, irrevocably, and for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare her. It felt right. It felt like coming home. Sophie called at 7 on Saturday morning, her voice sharp with excitement. "Hello?" Nora answered, her voice still husky with sleep. "Good morning, sunshine," Sophie sang on the other end. "How was last night's project review? Super productive?" "It was." Nora paused, feeling an involuntary smile tug at her lips just from remembering. "It was really good." Silence on the other end. Then, "You kissed him." Nora sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "How did you—" "Because I've known you for 6 years, Nora Callahan. And you never, ever say it was good in that silly, dreamy voice. And you're smiling right now, aren't you? Even while talking to me on the phone, you've got that goofy smile." Nora touched her lips, realizing Sophie was absolutely right. Maybe. "So, how was it?" 1 to 10, 10 being, "I need to sit down because my legs turned to jelly." Sophie, 12. It was 12, wasn't it? Oh my God, it was 12. Nora couldn't hold back her laughter. "It was perfect. Absolutely perfect." "I knew it!" Sophie practically screamed. "I knew from the first pie that you two were destined to—" "Don't say destined. That's too dramatic. Girl, you spent 2 years bringing pie to the man every Friday. If that's not destiny, I don't know what is." And maybe Sophie was right. Maybe some things really were inevitable. Like Fridays, like homemade pies, like falling for a man who called you architect and looked at you like you were the most precious thing in the world. Maybe some things were simply right, even when they shouldn't be, especially when they shouldn't be. Saturday morning greeted her with a clear sky and a message from Landon that made Nora smile before she even got out of bed. The exchange started simply at 8:47 a.m., while she was still lying down, enjoying a well-deserved rest and rereading last night's texts. Still thinking about last night, Nora bit her lip, deciding to tease him. "The panoramic view?" His reply came quickly. "Something much more interesting than the view. The wine was really good. Architect, you know exactly what I'm talking about." She laughed to herself in her room. "Maybe, but I like making you spell it out. Dangerous, very dangerous. You like dangerous. Only when it involves you." Nora reread the messages for the 10th time that morning, a goofy smile on her face as she absent-mindedly stirred her coffee in her mother's kitchen. "You're different," May Callahan observed from the doorway, drying her hands on the embroidered apron she'd worn for 20 years. Nora nearly dropped her mug. "Different how?" "Lighter." May stepped closer, studying her daughter's face with that maternal perception that was impossible to fool. "You're glowing. I haven't seen you like this since before your father." She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. "It's the project," Nora said quickly. "It's going really well. The client's happy with the progress." "The client, huh?" May smiled in that way that said she didn't believe a word of it but wasn't going to push. "Does this client have a name?" "Mom, I'm just happy, sweetheart." She kissed the top of Nora's head. "Whatever's making you smile like this, keep doing it. You deserve to smile that way." When May left the kitchen, Nora's phone buzzed again. "Lunch tomorrow? I know a place in Leiper's Fork. Discreet. Home cooking better than any restaurant in Nashville. So we're hiding this then?" "Not hiding. Just giving ourselves time to figure out what this is before explaining it to the world. Does that bother you?" "No. Honestly, I prefer it that way, at least for now." "Tomorrow then." "Tomorrow." The restaurant in Leiper's Fork was exactly as Landon had described. Small, rustic, with worn wooden tables and the smell of fried chicken and apple pie, perfuming the air. And, more importantly, 40 minutes from Nashville, far enough that they wouldn't run into anyone they knew. "Do you come here often?" Nora asked, studying the handwritten chalkboard menu. "My dad used to bring me here when I was a kid." Landon sat beside her in the booth, not across, a deliberate choice that made their shoulders brush every time one of them moved. "After my mom died, he said good food could cure sadness temporarily." "Did it?" "For a few hours." He took her hand under the table, intertwining their fingers, long enough to remember life was worth holding on to. Nora squeezed his hand, and for a moment they just sat like that, connected in the comfortable silence that had grown between them. "Landon? How did your mom die? You never mention it." He was quiet for so long Nora thought he might not answer. "Cancer," he finally said. "When I was 17. It was fast. 6 months between diagnosis and..." He didn't finish. Eleanor was 19 in law school. She came home without hesitation, dropped everything to take care of us. She never complained, never made me feel guilty for needing her. She just showed up, making coffee at 5 in the morning before taking my mom to chemo, helping me with homework when I couldn't focus, being strong when neither of us could. "She loves you a lot," Nora said softly. "She does, and I'll never be able to thank her enough for what she did." He looked down at his hands. "My dad tried to be strong on his own, worked more, smiled less, kept everything inside. And Eleanor taught me we don't have to be strong alone. That's what family is for." She sounds amazing. It's annoying how she's always right. He smiled a little. "And how she knows me better than I know myself sometimes. But yeah, she's amazing." Nora touched his face gently. "And you were strong too, in your own way. 17 years old, losing your mom. There's no right way to handle that." Landon turned his head to kiss her palm, his eyes closing briefly. "How did you get so wise at 22? "I lost my dad." She gave a sad smile. "I learned fast that pretending to be okay doesn't work. You just break down at inconvenient times." "Like when?" "Like when I burst into tears in the middle of structural calculus because the professor used an example about bridges, and my dad loved bridges." She laughed at the absurdity. "Sophie found me crying in the bathroom over support beams. And what did she do? Took me to a karaoke bar and made me sing Dolly Parton until I couldn't cry anymore." Landon laughed, that low, genuine sound she was collecting like rare treasures. "She sounds like a good friend." "The best." Nora paused. "She knows about us." "She does?" "She called yesterday morning. She figured it out by the tone of my voice when I mentioned the project meeting. She's not going to tell anyone, is she?" "No, Sophie may be unfiltered, but she's loyal." Nora bit her lip. "Did you tell anyone?" "Eleanor knows, or at least strongly suspects." He grimaced. "She texted me yesterday asking if I'd stopped being a coward and finally kissed the pie girl. And you replied. Told her to mind her own business," which she took as total confirmation. He sighed. "She's annoyingly perceptive." The waitress arrived with their plates: crispy fried chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, green beans with bacon, and warm biscuits that melted in their mouths. They ate slowly, talking between bites about everything and nothing: childhood stories, favorite songs, places they wanted to visit. "Have you ever been to Europe?" Nora asked, stealing a piece of biscuit from his plate. "Hey." He pulled the plate away with mock indignation. "You have your own biscuit. Yours looks better." "Architect," he said, that nickname now laced with affection. "If you wanted my biscuit, all you had to do was ask. But where's the fun in that?" He grabbed the biscuit, broke it in half, and placed the larger piece on her plate. "You're impossible to say no to. Just biscuits or anything." His eyes darkened in a way that promised trouble. "It's a serious problem." Nora felt her face grow warm but held his gaze. "I'll remember that. Please don't. I'm already at a critical disadvantage here." "Good." She bit into the biscuit with a teasing smile. "I like keeping you off balance." "Mission accomplished." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You've had me off balance ever since you were 20 and walked into my office with that first pie, red-eyed from crying but with your chin lifted, determined to keep the promise you made to your father. You remember that?" "I remember everything, Nora." He touched her face, seemingly unaware they were in public, that anyone could see. "Every visit, every conversation, every time you laughed at something I said and surprised yourself, like you didn't expect me to be funny. I didn't. You were so serious." "I am serious." But he was smiling. "You just make me forget to be." They spent the afternoon driving aimlessly through the rural roads around Leiper's Fork, windows down, country music playing softly on the radio. Landon drove with one hand on the wheel and the other intertwined with hers, and there was something perfectly simple about it, as if they had been doing this for years, not just days. "Did you know," Nora said, watching the golden fields pass by. That the Nashville Fall Harvest Festival starts next week? I did. He glanced at her. Why? My dad used to take me every year when I was little. She smiled at the memory. There was live music, food stalls, bonfires. He used to say it was where Tennessee showed its true soul. You want to go? I do, but… She hesitated. It's public. Lots of people. If we go together, people will see. He finished for her, understanding. And they'll talk. Yes. Landon was quiet for a moment, processing. What if we don't care? Nora looked at him, surprised. You don't care about what people think. He squeezed her hand. No, not when it comes to you, but I care if you care. If you're not ready to make this public. It's not shame, she said quickly. I just want to be sure about us before explaining it to everyone. Nora. He pulled the car over onto the shoulder, turning to face her completely. I'm 34. I've spent the last decade building a company, closing deals, doing everything right. And you know what I've learned? Right is boring, predictable, safe. He touched her face. You are none of those things. And I don't care if it's complicated, or if people judge, or if Eleanor makes jokes for the rest of my life. I only care about this. About you. Her heart was pounding so hard it seemed impossible he couldn't hear it. Landon, but, he continued, I get it if you need time, I won't push. We can keep this ours, for as long as you need. And the festival? We'll go separately. He gave that half smile. And if it just so happens we run into each other by the bonfire or the hot cider stand, or some dark corner where no one's looking, well, Nashville's a small town. Coincidences happen. Nora laughed and then kissed him, quick and sweet, there on the shoulder of a country road, golden fields stretching all around them. Coincidences, she repeated against his lips. Right. The following week blurred by in a flurry of secret messages, late-night calls, and 2 stolen meetups, a quick lunch in Brentwood, and a sunset walk along the trails of Radnor Lake, where they strolled hand in hand beneath October's golden trees, and Landon kissed her against an old oak until she forgot her own name. It was new. It was terrifying. It was absolutely perfect. And then Friday arrived. Nora walked into Hale Investments with the pecan pie at exactly 2 o'clock, keeping up appearances, keeping the tradition alive. But when the elevator doors opened on the 10th floor, it was Patricia, Landon's secretary, waiting with a strange expression. Miss Callahan. She gestured toward the conference room instead of Landon's office. Mr. Hale asked that you wait here. He's on an international call that's running longer than expected. Oh, of course. Nora stepped into the conference room, setting the pie on the table. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Nora was considering leaving when she heard voices in the hallway. It's not appropriate, Landon. She's too young, too vulnerable. With all due respect, Thomas, my personal life isn't your business. It's not personal when it involves Henry Callahan's daughter. You have responsibilities, a reputation, the company's fine, and Nora isn't. Nora recognized the second voice, Thomas Bradford, board member at Hale Investments and apparently someone with strong opinions about her. She should have interrupted. She should have made noise, let them know she was there. But she froze, listening. She's 22, for God's sake. You're 12 years older. People will talk. They'll say you're taking advantage, that you're using Henry's memory to… Enough. Landon's voice was dangerously low. You can question my business decisions. You can challenge my investments, but you will not talk about Nora like she's some kind of lapse in judgment on my part. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to think about the consequences. I have, and I decided she's worth any consequence. Silence. Then Thomas sighed. Just be careful, Landon, for your sake, for hers, for all of us. Footsteps faded. The conference room door opened and Landon walked in, looking tense and tired. Then he saw Nora, and his face fell. You heard. It wasn't a question. I did. She stood. Landon, if this is causing problems with the board, screw the board. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, cupping her face in his hands. Are you okay? She hadn't expected that reaction. Why wouldn't I be? Because Thomas just talked about you like you were a problem to be solved, and I want to kill him for it. But I need to know if you're okay first. Her heart melted a little. I'm okay. But, Landon, he has a point. People are going to talk. They're going to judge. Let them talk. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips, soft and reassuring. I don't care. Not anymore. But I do. She held his wrists. Not for me. For you. For the company. For what your father, my father, and you built. Nora, look at me. He waited until her eyes met his. We're two adults. You're 22, not 17. I'm 34, not 50. There's nothing wrong or inappropriate about what we're doing. But my father, your father, Landon said firmly but gently, was one of my dearest friends, despite the age difference. And he knew me better than anyone. He knew my values, my character, the way I treat people. Henry never... He paused, carefully choosing his words. He never asked me to take care of you like a child who needed eternal protection. He asked me to make sure you were okay, happy, reaching your potential. Landon touched her. And you know what I think? I think if he were here seeing you now, confident, talented, making your own choices, he'd be proud. And I think he'd approve. How do you know? Because Henry once told me, years before you showed up in my office with that first pie, that wealth without love is just numbers in a bank account, that he'd rather be poor and happy than rich and empty. Landon rested his forehead against hers. And he was right. I spent 12 years being rich and empty, building, investing, accumulating. And then you walked in with that determined smile and eyes that still held tears, but refused to give up. And I don't want to go back to empty, Nora. Not now that I know what full feels like. You really think he'd approve? I think he'd punch me for taking 2 years to do something about it. Landon gave a small smile, and then he'd hug me and say, take good care of my girl. And I will, Nora, I will. Not as a guardian, but as someone who loves you enough to let you be exactly who you are. Her eyes filled with tears. You love me. Landon brushed away a tear with his thumb. I've been in love with you since you were 20, when you looked at me with that fierce determination and told me you'd keep the tradition because promises matter. He gave a crooked smile. It just took me all this time to admit it to myself and to you. She kissed him, long and deep and full of everything words couldn't express. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, "Festival tomorrow, festival tomorrow." He smiled. And if anyone asks why we're together, I'll tell them the truth, that you're incredible and I'm lucky, and they can keep their judgments to themselves. Landon Hale, you're a romantic. Only with you, architect. He stole another kiss. Definitely only with you. The Nashville Fall Harvest Festival was everything Nora remembered and more. Fairy lights strung between trees, the scent of cinnamon and caramel apples in the air, live country music echoing from 3 different stages, and people everywhere, laughing, dancing, celebrating Tennessee autumn. Nora arrived with Sophie at 7, wearing her favorite floral dress and brown boots, her hair loose in natural waves. You look gorgeous, Sophie whistled, like trying to impress a certain businessman gorgeous. I'm not trying to impress anyone. Of course not, Sophie rolled her eyes. That's why you spent 2 hours picking your outfit and redid your makeup 3 times. Nora gave up. Shut up. Is he here already? I don't know. We're supposed to meet by accident, remember? Oh, right. Casual encounters. Totally believable. Sophie waved toward the crowd. Like that guy over there by the cider stand who can't stop looking at the entrance like he's waiting for someone specific. Nora looked. Landon was there, wearing dark jeans and a brown leather jacket over a plaid shirt, his hair slightly tousled by the wind, and he was looking straight at her. His face lit up. Oh no, Sophie murmured. You two are pathetic. Beautifully, adorably pathetic. Shh. Nora started walking toward him, her heart racing. When she got close, he smiled. That genuine, rare smile that was just for her. What a coincidence, he said, voice low and playful. Running into you here. Nashville's a small town. She bit her lip to keep from smiling. Too openly. Coincidences happen. They sure do. He glanced around casually, but no one was paying attention to them. Can I get you a cider? I'd love one. They walked side by side, not holding hands, not too close, maintaining that respectable distance of acquaintances. But when Landon handed her the cider, Their fingers brushed and lingered a second longer than necessary. "You look beautiful," he murmured. "So do you. Men aren't beautiful. You are." He chuckled, softly, shaking his head. "You're going to ruin my serious businessman reputation." "Good." She took a sip of cider, watching him over the rim of the cup. "You're much more interesting when you're not serious." They spent the next hour wandering around the festival, officially separate, Nora with Sophie and Landon apparently alone, but always orbiting each other like planets caught in the same gravity. They accidentally bumped into each other near the music stage. Coincidentally, ended up in the same line for pumpkin pie. Casually found themselves sitting near the same bonfire once the sun had fully set. To her credit, Sophie played the role of chaperone without complaint, though her eyes sparkled with amusement every time Nora and Landon exchanged loaded glances across the fire. "I'm going to get more cider," Sophie finally announced, standing with an exaggerated yawn. "And maybe a slice of that pecan pie I saw way over there, far away. It'll take about 15 minutes at least." Once she left, Landon casually moved to the bench beside Nora. "Your friend is subtle," he remarked. "Like a runaway train." Nora smiled. "But I love her." "I do too." He stretched his arm along the back of the bench, not touching her but close enough to feel the warmth. "Thanks for coming. I know this is complicated. It's worth it." She leaned lightly against him, allowing herself that small contact. "All the complicated is worth. When it's with you." Landon turned his head, his lips brushing her hair. "I want to kiss you right now, here, in front of everyone. But you won't." "But I won't," he sighed, "because I respect that you're not ready for that yet." "It's not that I'm not ready." She looked down at his hands, wanting to hold them but restraining herself. "It's just that, when we tell people, it'll be real, official, and then people will have opinions, like Thomas. And I just want to be sure we're ready to handle that together." "Nora." He waited until she looked at him. "I've been ready since that first kiss on the rooftop, but I'll wait as long as you need, okay? No pressure, no rush." Her heart filled with something warm and impossible to name. "How can you be so patient?" He smirked. "Confident? Irresistibly charming. Perfect." She laughed. "How can you be so perfect?" "Architect, I'm far from perfect. But with you, I want to try." The music changed. Something slow and wistful, a local band playing a cover of Tennessee whiskey. "You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine." Landon stood and held out his hand. "Dance with me? Here? In front of everyone?" There are other people dancing. And there were several couples swaying near the fire. "Just two more. No one will think anything of it." She took his hand. They danced slowly, leaving just enough space between them to appear proper to anyone watching, but close enough for Nora to feel the warmth of his body, to hear the steady beat of his heart beneath the palm resting against his chest. "I love this song," he murmured. "Me too. It makes me think of you." She looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because it says he found something sweet in the middle of everything bitter." He squeezed her hand. "And that's how I feel. I spent so much time focused on work, on building things, on being responsible. And then you showed up, sweet and unexpected, and suddenly everything that came before feels incomplete." He stopped dancing for a moment, just holding her and looking into her eyes with an intensity that stole the air from her lungs. "You're my strawberry wine, Nora. The sweet thing I didn't know I was looking for." Landon. She didn't know what to say, how to tell him that she felt the same way, that he'd awakened parts of her that had been asleep since her father died. So she simply leaned closer, resting her head against his chest for one brief, improper, completely revealing moment. And when the music ended and they stepped apart, there were people watching. Not many, but enough. Enough for Nora to know. Their secret was no longer a secret. Sophie returned with cider and pie, eyes wide. "You two know you just danced together like a couple, right? In front of, like, all of southern Tennessee? We were just," Nora began. "In love," Sophie finished. "You were clearly, obviously, blatantly in love, and everyone saw it." Nora glanced around, and yes, there were people whispering, pointing discreetly, watching with curiosity, and in the corner, observing with a satisfied expression, stood Landon Hale, dressed in jeans and a stylish blouse, raising a glass of wine toward them in a silent toast. She had seen everything, and from the smile on her face, she was absolutely delighted. "So," Sophie said, digging into her pie, "I guess we're not keeping this a secret anymore, huh?" Nora looked at Landon, who had stepped away to take a call but was glancing back at her with a look that mixed concern and something deeper. He mouthed silently, "You okay?" She nodded and realized, to her own surprise, that she was, because hiding was becoming exhausting, and she was ready for this to be real, official, public, ready to be the woman Landon Hale was in love with, even if it meant judgment, even if it meant complications. Because he was worth it. They were worth it. 2 hours later, in his car, Eleanor texted, Landon said, driving slowly down the quiet streets back to her house. 5 exclamation points and 3 heart emojis. Apparently, we're officially the cutest couple in Tennessee. She's dramatic. She's right. He took her hand, kissing her knuckles. We are the cutest couple in Tennessee. Nora laughed. You're going to drop me off and leave like a gentleman? I am. He paused. Unless you invite me in and we make this official with your mom. Her heart skipped. You want to talk to my mom? Officially? Nora. He pulled up in front of her house, turning to face her. I've known your mom for years, since my partnership with your dad. But now I want her to know I'm not just Henry's old business partner. I want her to know I'm the man who's completely in love with her daughter. For real. Officially. Even knowing she's going to ask. A million embarrassing questions? Especially because of that. He smiled. Moms are experts at embarrassment, and your mom deserves to hear directly from me that my intentions with you are entirely serious. And if she doesn't approve, May's always liked me. He touched her face. But if she has any reservations about this, about us, then I'll take as long as it takes to prove I'm good enough for her daughter. Because I am, Nora. Maybe not perfectly, but I'll try to be. She kissed him, right there in the car, in front of her house where any neighbor could see. And she didn't care one bit. Come on. She opened the door. Let's make this official before I change my mind. May was in the living room, reading with a cup of tea when they walked in. She looked up. She saw Nora. She saw Landon right behind her, holding her daughter's hand. And she smiled. The kind of smile that said she already knew, had suspected for a while, and had just been waiting. For them to find the courage to own it. Landon Hale, she said, setting the book aside. Finally, I was starting to think you two would never stop dancing around each other. Landon gave a slightly sheepish smile. You knew? Sweetheart, I've known you for years. May stood and walked toward them. And I've known my daughter her whole life. I noticed months ago, since the first time she came home with that sparkle in her eyes after bringing pie, and you started casually asking how she was doing at college every time we saw each other. Nora covered her face with her hands. Mom, oh, don't be embarrassed. May took Landon's hands in hers with maternal warmth. Henry trusted you, as a partner, a friend, a man of character, and I've always known that if my daughter ever fell in love, it would be with someone who truly saw her. She looked into his eyes. You see her, don't you? I do. Landon's voice was steady, sincere, and I fell in love with what I saw. May smiled, her eyes shining softly. Then welcome, officially. She released his hands and pulled her daughter into a hug. Your father would be so happy, sweetheart. So happy. 3 weeks had passed since they danced at the festival, and their secret was no longer a secret. 3 weeks of official dinners, of holding hands in public, of Landon waiting for her outside campus without caring who saw. And now, on a chilly Friday night in November, Nora stood in front of the Hale House, a historic Belmead mansion that breathed Southern tradition and old legacies, trying not to panic. Breathe, Landon said beside her, holding her hand. It's just dinner. A formal dinner where you're officially announcing to your family that we're dating. They already know. Eleanor texts me practically every day asking when we're making it official. But your father, my father, Landon cut in, turning to face her, already approves. He saw you at the Franklin estate, remember? He practically gave me a silent blessing that day. Silent being the key word. Architect. He cupped her face. Do you trust me? Completely. Then let's go. He kissed her forehead. And if Eleanor makes any embarrassing jokes, I'm fully prepared to throw mashed potatoes at her. Nora laughed despite her nerves. And right then the door swung open. Eleanor stood there, wearing a red sweater and jeans, a glass of wine in hand, and a huge grin on her face. "Finally!" she practically yelled, pulling Nora inside and hugging her like they were old friends. "I thought he'd never have the guts to bring you here officially." "Eleanor, let her breathe," Landon protested. "Shh, I'm having a moment here." Eleanor stepped back, holding Nora by the shoulders and studying her. "You're even prettier up close. Landon has good taste after all. I was worried after that phase when he dated that marketing executive who wore stiletto heels for breakfast." "Ellie, what? I'm giving context." She grabbed Nora's hand and led her inside. "Come on, I need to show you Landon's embarrassing childhood photos before he stops me." "Please don't," Landon muttered behind them, but there was humor in his voice. The house was exactly as Nora had imagined, elegant yet inviting, with dark wooden furniture, crackling fireplaces, and silver-framed family photographs scattered everywhere. William sat in the living room, reading the newspaper in a leather armchair. When he looked up and saw Nora, his smile widened, warm and genuine. "Nora." He stood, setting the paper aside. "What a joy to have you here. Formally this time. Mr. Hale, thank you for having me. William, please." He glanced at his son with obvious approval. "And you don't need to thank me. Anyone who makes my son smile like an idiot every time his phone rings is always welcome in this house." "Dad," Landon warned, but he was smiling. "What?" "It's true." William hugged Nora briefly, paternal. "How's your mother? May and I spoke last week. She's glowing." "She is," Nora confirmed, surprised he cared enough to call. "She said you two played chess?" "Like old times. Henry and I used to play every Tuesday and May always beat us both." He smiled at the memory. "It's good to bring back old traditions." Eleanor reappeared with a tray of cheese and fruit. "All right, enough polite conversation. Let's move to the dining room and let Nora meet the real Hales." She winked. "Including our adorable family dysfunctions." "We don't have dysfunctions," William protested. "Dad, you have 15 wall clocks in the house because you don't trust just one to be right. That's prudence. That's adorable neurosis." Eleanor gestured for everyone to follow. "Come on, dinner's getting cold and I didn't spend 2 hours making coq au vin for it to turn into rubber." Dinner was unexpectedly wonderful. Eleanor was exactly as Landon had described. Unfiltered, funny, with a remarkable ability to embarrass her brother while making Nora feel like part of the family. "So," she said, slicing her chicken with surgical precision, "when are you two announcing this to the board?" "Because Thomas Bradford called me yesterday to express concerns, and I had the immense pleasure of telling him that my brother's love life is none of his business." "Eleanor handled it," Landon said, looking at his sister with obvious gratitude. "In a very assertive way. I told him if he tried to question a CEO's personal choices based on age bias, I'd be more than happy to sue for discrimination." Eleanor took a sip of wine. He changed the subject fast. "You're amazing," Nora said, genuinely impressed. "I know," Eleanor grinned. "But seriously, you two have my full support. Who cares about age? My grandfather was 15 years older than my grandmother, and they were married for 52 happy years." "Eleanor," William interrupted gently, "maybe we should let Nora eat before bombarding her with family history." "No, it's fine," Nora said quickly. "I want to hear it. I want to really know his family." William's eyes softened. "Then you'll hear plenty of stories. Henry spoke of you with so much pride, you know. He said you inherited your grandmother's artistic eye and his stubborn determination." He glanced at Landon, and he was right. "You resemble him in ways that go beyond appearance. The way you talk about spaces, about honoring the past, that's Henry living through you." Nora's eyes stung. "Thank you. That means a lot. And it means a lot to us," William continued, "to have you here, not just as the daughter of an old friend, but as the woman my son has chosen, and who, from what I see, has chosen him back." "I have," Nora said, looking at Landon. "Completely." Eleanor cleared her throat dramatically. "Okay, before this turns into a full Hallmark moment, does anyone want more wine? Because clearly we're going to need it when I show Nora the pictures of Landon at 13 with braces and spiky hair." "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would." Eleanor was already getting up. "Nora deserves to know what she's getting into. And despite Landon's protests, despite his obvious embarrassment, Nora saw something beautiful in that moment. A family that loved each other enough to tease, to laugh, to be completely human together, and who welcomed her as if she'd always belonged. Later that night, after Eleanor finally showed mercy and stopped the embarrassing slideshow, after William hugged them both at the door with shining eyes and a "take care of each other," Landon drove Nora back to his apartment. It was her first time there, and there was something significant about it, a step beyond anything they'd taken so far. The apartment was exactly how she'd imagined, modern yet cozy, with large windows, overlooking Nashville's night skyline, shelves filled with books on architecture and investments, and a piano in the corner that made her smile. "Do you play?" she asked, walking toward the instrument. "Not like you." He followed, standing behind her. "My mom tried to teach me, but I was never very good. I keep it here because it reminds me of her." Nora ran her fingers lightly over the keys, and Landon wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Play something for me," he murmured. "Here? Now? Always." So she played, that unfinished melody that had somehow become theirs, and Landon held her as the notes filled the apartment, his heartbeat thudding against her back, his breath warm against her neck. When the last note faded, he turned her in his arms and kissed her, slow, deep, and full of everything he was feeling. They stayed like that for a long time in his apartment, just talking about dinner, about his, family, until the words began to fade and their eyes started saying more than their sentences. Landon pulled her closer on the sofa, his fingers tracing soft lines down her arm, and Nora felt her heart race, that blend of anticipation and nervousness that made the air feel heavier. When he kissed her, it was different from all the other kisses. Slower, deeper, as if he were memorizing every detail, the taste of her lips, the tiny sound she made when he cupped her face with both hands, the way her body instinctively leaned into his. His hand slid to her waist, drawing her nearer, and she found herself half reclined against his chest, his heartbeat pounding beneath her palm. He kissed the corner of her mouth, then down the line of her jaw, slowly moving to her neck. Nora closed her eyes, lost in the sensation, the heat, the way each touch made something inside her tighten, the growing pulse of desire. But then something shifted. She gasped, not from pleasure, but from something closer to anxiety, and her body tensed slightly beneath his. Landon stopped immediately. He pulled back, searching her face with genuine concern, his hands still gentle on her waist, no longer pulling, just holding. "Nora," he said softly, his voice still husky but controlled. "Am I going too fast?" She opened her eyes, and he saw it, the flush rising along her neck, the way she couldn't quite meet his gaze, the clear embarrassment. She bit her lip. "It's not that. Hey." He sat up, pulling her with him but creating respectful space between them. "Look at me." She obeyed reluctantly. "You never have to be afraid to talk to me about anything." His eyes were serious, kind. "Whatever it is, you can tell me. No judgment, no pressure, just honesty." Something in the way he said it, so firm, so steady, broke down her defenses. She took a deep breath, gathering courage. "I've never been with anyone like that. I'm a virgin." If Landon was surprised, he didn't show it. He simply held her gaze, waiting. "And I know it probably sounds silly, especially at my age, but..." The words rushed out now, as if she needed to explain before she lost her nerve. "I always had this sort of teenage dream that I'd give myself only to the man I was going to marry, not for religious reasons or anything like that. I just wanted it to mean something, to be with someone who'd stay, who'd really love me." She looked away, her face burning. "I know it sounds completely old-fashioned, and I'm not saying this to pressure you into anything, I swear. It's not an ultimatum or..." She paused. "It's just that, no matter how much I feel for you, no matter how much I want you, I want to wait." The silence that followed felt endless. Then Landon gently took her chin, making her look at him, and he was smiling, not mockingly, not condescendingly, but softly, admiringly, completely enchanted. "Nora," he said, his voice full of something she couldn't name. "There's nothing silly about that. But, no." He framed her face with both hands. "Listen, You're making a choice about your body, about your first time, about something important to you, and you're being honest with me about it even though you were scared of how I'd react. That's not old-fashioned, that's..." He paused, searching for the right word. "It's beautiful. It's brave. It's completely you." Her eyes filled with tears. You don't think it's childish? Or that I'm being dramatic?" "I think," he said, wiping away a stray tear, "that you know what you want, and that you're strong enough to keep your standard even when the world says you shouldn't, and that any man lucky enough to be chosen by you," he smiled, "will be the luckiest man alive." "Landon." He kissed her then, softly, reverently, as if she were something precious to be handled with care. There was no rush, no expectation, just love, pure and simple. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I can wait, Nora. Days, months, years if I have to. Because this," he gestured between them, "isn't about sex. It's about you, about us, about building something that lasts. You really don't mind?" "I mind," he corrected gently. "About respecting you, about honoring you, about getting everything right with you." He kissed her forehead. "And if that means waiting until you're ready, until you're sure, until the moment is perfect, then we'll wait. Together." She threw her arms around him, burying her face against his chest as silent tears fell. But this time, they were tears of relief, of gratitude, of absolute love for this man who saw her exactly as she was and didn't want to change a thing. "How are you so perfect?" she whispered against his shirt. "I'm far from perfect, architect." He held her tighter, resting his chin atop her head. "But with you, I want to try. Always." They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other, and Nora realized something fundamental. Landon didn't love her despite her choice. He loved her, including it, every part of her, even the parts the world called outdated or strange. And that mattered. A lot. The following weeks slowly turned into months, and what Nora and Landon built together became something solid, real, tempered by everyday life. They argued over little things. He was stubborn about organizing books by color. "It's aesthetically pleasing, Nora." And she insisted on leaving coffee mugs scattered around the house. "I do come back to them, eventually." He worked too much. She stressed over college deadlines. There were days when the world felt unbearably heavy, and they simply sat together in silence, just being there for each other. But there was laughter too. So much laughter. Sunday mornings making pancakes in his kitchen while debating whether blueberry was better than chocolate chip. It wasn't, she always won that argument. Moments when he showed up at her campus with coffee and cookies because he knew she had an exam. Evenings when she played the piano while he listened like it was the most important sound in the world. They discovered each other in the small, ordinary things. She learned that he was an obnoxiously cheerful morning person, while she needed at least 20 minutes and a cup of coffee before she could form coherent sentences. He discovered that she hummed softly when she was focused, and he loved that sound more than any song. She learned that he sometimes had nightmares about losing the people he loved, and he learned to let her hold him until his breathing steadied again. And they supported each other. When Nora's professor publicly questioned her final project, calling it too ambitious for a student, Landon showed up that night with wine and words of encouragement, reminding her of every beautiful thing she had ever created. When Thomas Bradford once again questioned Landon's personal choices during a board meeting, Nora showed up at his office afterward with homemade pie, reminding him of who he was, brilliant, respected, and defined by no one's approval but his own. They became a team, partners, best friends who also happened to be madly, completely in love. Then, on a March night, 6 months after their first rooftop kiss, Landon took her back to the Franklin State. The project was nearly finished now, beautiful and functional just as they had envisioned. But Nora wasn't prepared for what awaited her when he led her into the ballroom on the second floor. The piano was there, polished and gleaming, but around it were candles, hundreds of them, creating a sea of golden light that reflected off the windows and made the entire space glow with magic. "Landon," she whispered. "What?" "Play for me," he said softly. "One last time before. This place belongs to the world." With trembling hands, she sat at the piano and began to play, that unfinished melody that had become their story. But this time, something different happened. The notes flowed in a way they never had before. Her fingers moved across the keys with certainty, finding chords she hadn't even known she was looking for. The melody that always stopped midway, unresolved and uncertain, suddenly knew where it was going. She played through the familiar part, but when she reached the place where the music always faltered, where it had always died out, unsure how to continue, this time she didn't stop. The notes continued, naturally, inevitably, as if they had always been there, simply waiting for her to be ready to find them. The harmony resolved into something sweet and whole, ending not with sadness or doubt, but with hope, with certainty, with the feeling that something broken for so long had finally become complete. When the final note lingered in the air, Nora sat still for a moment, her hands resting on the keys, barely able to believe what had just happened. She had finished it. After 10 years, she had finished the song. She turned on the piano bench, searching for Landon, and found him standing near the windows watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Admiration, love, something deeper than words. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears, and a smile that came from somewhere deep inside her. "I finished it," she whispered, awe in her voice. "After all these years, I finally finished." "You finished it," he agreed, his voice rough with emotion. And then, as if the words had been waiting all along, she continued, "It was you. Simple, honest, completely true. You were the missing piece. The reason I could never finish it?" A tear slid down her cheek. "It's because I was waiting for you. My heart knew before I did. The music couldn't end until I found you. You completed me, Landon." She saw the exact moment her words hit him, the way his eyes closed briefly, his hand going to his chest as if something squeezed there, his breath catching. When he opened his eyes again, they were shining with tears. Then he moved. He walked toward her with purposeful steps, and when he reached the piano, he knelt. Nora's heart stopped when she saw the velvet box in his hands. "Nora Callahan," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion brimming inside. "You took a life that was all about work and numbers and responsibility, and you filled it with music, with laughter, with meaning. You taught me that being strong doesn't mean being alone, that love isn't weakness, it's courage, and that some of the best things in life come in unexpected packages, like pecan pies on Fridays, and eyes that see straight through every defense I built." He opened the box, revealing a delicate ring, rose gold with a single diamond, surrounded by tiny stones that looked like captured stars. "And you just said I completed you." His voice broke slightly. "But the truth, Nora, is that you completed me. You say you finished a song that was waiting for me. That's touching. And I was waiting for you too. Waiting without knowing it. Living incomplete without realizing it. Until you came along and showed me what it meant to be whole." A tear slipped down his face. "I can't promise I'll be perfect. I'll overwork sometimes. I'll be stubborn about ridiculous things. I'll probably organize your design books by color when you're not looking." She laughed through the tears already streaming down her cheeks. "But I can promise," he continued, "to love you every day, to support every wild dream, to pick up all your coffee mugs around the house because I know you'll come back for them eventually, and to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the incredible woman you are." He took a deep breath. "Nora, my architect, my strawberry wine, the one who finished the song I didn't even know was unfinished inside me." His eyes shone. "Will you marry me?" Nora slid off the piano bench and knelt in front of him, cupping his face in her hands. "Yes, my love," she whispered. "Of course I will." He slipped the ring onto her finger, perfect as if it had been made for her, and then kissed her, there on the ballroom floor, surrounded by candles and possibilities and the entire future waiting for them. When they finally pulled back, both laughing and crying at once, Landon rested his forehead against hers. "Your dad," he said softly, "would be so proud of you, of the woman you've become. And I'm going to spend every day honoring the trust he placed in me." "You already do," Nora whispered, "just by loving me the way you do, by seeing me the way you see me." And there, in that historic ballroom where everything had begun with a piano and an unfinished melody, they held each other and looked out the window at Nashville glittering below, their city, their future, their life waiting to be built. Together, exactly as it was always meant to be. The months between the proposal and the wedding passed like a dream, intense, real, and full of moments Nora would cherish forever. She continued with college, entering her final semester with renewed determination. Her capstone project, a full redesign of a historic theater in East Nashville, received top marks and an honorable mention. The professor who had once said she was too ambitious didn't show up to her presentation, but Landon was there in the front row, his eyes shining with pride. And then, on a warm May morning, the Franklin estate finally opened its doors to the public. Nora and Landon stood side by side at the entrance, watching the first visitors walk in, tourists marveling at the restored stained glass windows, couples taking pictures on the grand staircase, children running through gardens, replanted with Tennessee's native flowers. "You did this," Landon murmured, holding her hand. "You brought this place back to life." "We did," she corrected, resting her head on his shoulder. "Together." When they entered the ballroom, now polished and gleaming, ready to host events, Nora stopped in front of the piano that still stood exactly where it belonged. "Play," Landon asked softly, and she did. The complete song now, from beginning to end. When she finished, there was applause. Visitors who had quietly stepped in to listen, hotel staff who had paused their work, even Eleanor, who had shown up unannounced and was leaning against the doorway with a huge grin. "You two are annoyingly perfect together," she commented afterward. "If you keep this up, you're going to make me believe in soulmates." The wedding day dawned clear and golden, a perfect June Saturday, with Tennessee's blue sky stretching endlessly over the Hale property, where the ceremony had been set up in the gardens. Nora was in the guest room that had been turned into a bridal suite, looking at her reflection in the mirror while May adjusted the veil. The dress was simple yet elegant, delicate lace on the shoulders, a fitted waist, and a skirt flowing in layers of tulle like clouds. No excess, no unnecessary sparkle, just her. "You look beautiful," May whispered, her eyes shining. "Your father would be so proud." "I feel him here," Nora admitted, touching the necklace she wore, a delicate chain with her father's pocket watch, which she had turned into a pendant. "Like he's the one giving me away." "He is." May kissed her forehead. "In every way that matters." Sophie entered then, wearing her peach-colored bridesmaid dress, and let out a low whistle. "Would you look at you?" She twirled Nora around. "Landon is going to pass out when he sees you walking down that aisle." "You think so?" "Girl, the man already looks at you like you're made of light. Today, he's going to cry. Guaranteed." Sophie took her hands, her smile softening. "I'm so happy for you, Nora. So happy." "I know," Nora squeezed back. "And I wouldn't have made it here without you. You kept me sane through all of this. And I'll keep doing it, especially tomorrow morning when you wake up sore and confused about how—" Sophie waved her hands vaguely. "Sophie." Nora's face turned bright red. "What? I'm just being helpful. Look, all I'm saying is communication is key, and he clearly knows what he's doing because that man radiates confidence. Just relax and let him lead. You'll thank me later. Mom, controller please." May was laughing, trying to hide it behind her hand. "She's not wrong, sweetheart. Communication matters. I cannot believe we're having this conversation right now. Better now than later." Sophie winked. "And for the record, he's a gentleman. It's going to be beautiful and respectful and probably a little emotional because he loves you. Just enjoy it. You two waited for this. It deserves to be special." Nora was fully flushed now, but also laughing, that nervous, giddy laugh of anticipation and embarrassment all tangled together. "You're impossible, but you love me, unfortunately." On the other side of the property, Landon was in William's office, adjusting his tie for the 5th time while his father watched with barely contained amusement. "You're nervous," William commented, handing his son a glass of whiskey. "I'm not nervous, Landon paused. "Okay, I'm nervous. It's normal. I was terrified when I married your mother." William smiled at the memory. "I tripped over my own shadow walking to the altar. That doesn't help, Dad. It's not supposed to. It's to remind you we're all human, even on the biggest days." He put a hand on his son's shoulder. "Landon, I need to tell you something." The serious tone made Landon look. "Boo." When your mom died, I thought I'd never see you truly happy again. You closed yourself off, focused, determined to build, to prove, to succeed." William's eyes shone, and I worried that you'd live your whole life without ever letting anyone really know you. Dad. But then Nora came along, and I watched you change, slowly, but change. I saw you laugh more. Relax. Let someone in. He squeezed his son's shoulder. And today, seeing you about to marry her, son, I couldn't be prouder. Not of what you've built or the money you've made, but of the man you've become. The man she helped you become. Landon felt his throat tighten. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Just be happy. Love that woman the way she deserves. And let her love you back. Completely. Without fear. William blinked rapidly, wiping at his eyes. Your mother would have adored her, you know. Absolutely adored. I know. Landon hugged his father. Tight and brief, but filled with everything he couldn't put into words. Thank you, Dad, for everything. The door opened and Eleanor entered, already in her navy blue bridesmaid dress, her makeup flawless except for her slightly red eyes. You two are going to make me cry before the ceremony even starts, she complained, but her voice was shaky. Landon looked at his sister, surprised. Ellie, are you crying? No. She wiped her nose with a tissue. Allergies. In June? Indoors? Emotional allergies, you insensitive jerk. She crossed her arms, but her chin trembled. You're getting married. My annoying little brother is marrying the sweetest woman in Tennessee. And her voice broke. And then Eleanor, fierce lawyer, woman who never showed weakness, the big sister who was always in control, started to cry for real. Landon crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into a hug. Hey, it's okay. It's not. She sniffled against his shoulder. You're growing up. You don't need me anymore. I'll always need you. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Ellie, you saved me. When Mom died, when I was lost, you were there. You've always been there. And just because I'm getting married doesn't change that. Promise? Her voice was small, vulnerable in a way he rarely saw. Promise. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. Besides, do you really think Nora would let me get rid of you? She already loves you almost as much as I do. Eleanor let out a wet laugh. She has good taste. She does. He kissed his sister's forehead. Thank you, Ellie, for everything, for knowing me, for teasing me, for reminding me I'm human when I forget. That's what annoying older sisters are for. She stepped back, wiping her face and trying to regain her composure. Okay, enough emotion. You've got a bride waiting, and I've got a tough reputation to maintain. Too late. Landon grinned. I've seen you vulnerable. I'll never forget it. Shut up and go get married, idiot. But she was smiling. The ceremony was simple and perfect. White chairs lined up in the garden, an arch draped with ivy and white roses, Nashville stretching behind them like a living painting. When the music began, a string quartet's instrumental version of Tennessee Whiskey, Landon's heart kicked into a sprint. And then he saw her, Nora, walking down the aisle on May's arm, her dress flowing. Around her, June sunlight turning her hair to gold, her eyes locked on his with a love so obvious it stole his breath. She was radiant, and he was completely gone. William had been right. He was crying, not dramatic sobs, but quiet tears slipping down his face as he watched the woman he loved walk toward him, toward their future, the rest of their lives. When Nora reached the altar at last, and May placed her hand in his, she whispered, "You're crying. Your fault," he said with a wet smile, "for being too perfect, only for you." The ceremony blurred into beautiful words and sacred promises. They'd written their own vows, Landon promising to love, honor, and never organize her books by color. A lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. Nora promising to love, support, and always make pecan pie on Fridays. And when the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Landon pulled her close and kissed her like it was the first and last time, full of reverence and passion and the promise of all the days to come. When they broke apart, both laughing and crying at once, the world erupted in applause. Sophie was on her feet, cheering and shouting, "Finally!" Eleanor was crying again, not even trying to hide it. William was smiling so wide it looked like his face might crack, and May held a framed photo of Henry, whispering something to it as if he were there too. In a way he was. The reception was everything they'd dreamed. Live music, dancing under fairy lights, Tennessee comfort food so good it made you want to cry. Landon and Nora opened the dance floor with their first dance. Tennessee whiskey again, because what else could it be? He held her close, turning her slowly as he sang softly in her ear. "You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. I love you," she whispered against his chest. "I love you more. Impossible. I'll spend the rest of my life proving you wrong." When the song ended and others joined the floor, Sophie dragged Nora aside. "So," she said, eyes sparkling with mischief, "ready for tonight?" "Sophie, not this again. Look, I'm just saying, you've got the honeymoon suite at the most romantic hotel in Nashville. Champagne, rose petals, the whole cliché romance spread." She gripped Nora's shoulders. "And you have the most devoted man on earth waiting to make it special for you. So go enjoy that leading man, babe. And call me. Tomorrow with all the details. Edited to preserve my pure innocence, but still juicy." Nora was red again, but laughing. "Innocent, you? Uh-huh. You're terrible. I know. And I'll do anything to keep that smile on your face." Sophie hugged her hard. "Be happy, honey. You deserve every bit of it." Later, when the party was winding down and the Tennessee moon hung high, Landon took Nora's hand and led her to the car strung with cans and "just married" scrawled across the windows. The drive to the hotel was short but thick with anticipation. When they stepped into the suite, exactly as Sophie had described, romantic, rose petals everywhere, chilled champagne waiting, Landon closed the door and simply looked at his wife. "Wife. Hi, Mrs. Hale," he said softly. "Hi, Mr. Hale." She smiled, nerves flickering underneath. He crossed to her and framed her face in his hands. "We don't have to do anything tonight if you're not ready. We can just sleep. Wake up married. No. Rush. Landon." She covered his hands with hers. "I'm ready. Nervous but ready because it's you. And I trust you completely." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." He kissed her then, slow and deep, his hands sliding through her hair, along her zipper, learning every inch of her with a reverence that went beyond physical desire. It was adoration. It was love made tangible. And when they finally lay down together, Landon whispered against her lips, "Now I'm going to take care of you. Love, I promise." "I know." And he did. The moon kept its slow climb across the sky. The candles burned down to pools of wax. The champagne sat forgotten, unopened. And in the middle of the night, two hearts that had already learned to beat together found a deeper way to connect. Profound, sacred, completely theirs. When the sun rose over Nashville, it found them tangled in the sheets. Nora sleeping on Landon's chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns along her back, both wearing foolish, satisfied smiles. "Good morning, Mrs. Hale," he murmured as she stirred. Morning." She kissed his chest. "Did you sleep?" "A little. Mostly watched you like an enchanted guard." "Romantic." She leaned up, kissing him slow. "How do you feel?" "Whole." He drew her closer. "You?" She considered. The faint soreness, yes, but also something else. Something that made her heart stretch wide in her chest. Loved. Completely loved. "Good." He rolled her onto her back, bracing on his elbows above her. "Because you are, and you will be, every day for the rest of our lives. The first months of marriage were a dance of learning how to live together, not just dating and spending time, but partnering to build a life." They fought over ridiculous things, like Landon's insistence on folding towels in a specific pattern. "There is a correct way to do this, Nora." Or Nora leaving shoes all over the house like breadcrumb trails. "I always know where they are, eventually." But they laughed too, a lot. Like the day they tried cooking together and ended up ordering pizza because Landon burned the dough and Nora let the sauce boil over. Or when he taught her chess and she won the first time. He pretended to be offended but was secretly impressed. Nora graduated with honors and received 3 job offers. She chose the smaller firm that specialized in historic preservation because it meant something. Landon was there at commencement. Again, front row, clapping so loudly Eleanor had to tell him to calm down. And every Friday, without fail, there was pecan pie. Sometimes baked by Nora, sometimes bought when she was too busy, but always there, always reminding them where they'd begun. At night, when the work was done and the world went quiet, Nora played the piano, sometimes their song, sometimes something new, and Landon always stopped whatever he was doing to listen, because that sound, that music, was the soundtrack of their life. It was on a Friday in October, almost a year and a half after the wedding, that Nora realized something was different. She was tired, more than usual. She felt queasy in the mornings, sensitive to smells, and her period was late, very late. Sophie went with her to buy the test, holding her hand as they waited out the longest 3 minutes of Nora's life in a cafe bathroom. When the timer finally went off and Nora looked at the test, the world stopped. 2 lines. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Is it?" Sophie asked, trying to peek. "It's positive." Nora looked at her friend with wide eyes. "Sophie, I'm pregnant." Sophie screamed so loudly she startled the entire cafe, and then the 2 of them were crying and laughing and hugging in the tiny bathroom, while people knocked on the door, asking if everything was all right. "How are you going to tell him?" Sophie asked once they finally calmed down. Nora thought for a moment, then smiled. "I know exactly how." That night when Landon came home from work, he found the living room dark except for candles, and Nora sitting at their piano. "What's this?" he asked, smiling as he took off his jacket. "Come sit with me." He obeyed, sitting next to her on the bench, and she began to play their song from beginning to end. But when she finished, instead of stopping, she kept going. She played something new, something she had started that afternoon, soft and hopeful, like a lullaby. When the last note faded, she turned to him. "I started a new song today." "I heard," he said, touching her face. "It's beautiful. What inspired you?" "Our baby." She took his hand and placed it over her stomach. Still flat, but not for long. "I'm pregnant, Landon. We're having a baby." For 3 seconds, he just stared at her, and then his face transformed, moving through shock, realization, and finally pure, unfiltered joy. We are." He pulled her into a hug so tight it almost knocked the air out of her, his face buried in her hair, his body trembling slightly with emotion. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were shining with tears. "We're going to be parents. We are. I love you." He kissed her. "I love you so much. You, our baby, this life we built. I love you too." She wiped his tears. "And our baby is already so loved." Landon knelt in front of her, placing his hands on either side of her belly, and whispered, "Hi, little one. It's me, your dad." His voice broke. "I can't wait to meet you, to hold you, to show you the world and tell you about the incredible woman who's your mom." Nora ran her fingers through his hair, her heart so full it almost hurt. This was the end of the song. Not when she played the final notes in the ballroom, but here, now, with the man she loved kneeling before her, whispering promises to their baby, while Nashville sparkled outside and the life they had built stretched around them, solid, real, beautifully imperfect. The song had begun incomplete, full of unanswered questions, full of suspended expectations, waiting for something she couldn't yet name. And now, finally, it was complete, not just with an ending, but with a new beginning. And merry years later, the house in Belmead, not the Hale mansion, but a smaller property Nora and Landon had bought and restored together, was delightfully chaotic on a warm June. Saturday morning, there were toys scattered across the living room, coffee mugs on various surfaces, some Nora's, some Landon's. He'd finally picked up the habit, and the sound of high-pitched giggles floated in from the backyard. Nora stood in the kitchen, trying to get lunch started while watching through the window as their 2-year-old twins, Lily and Grace, ran barefoot through the grass, chasing butterflies with that serious determination only toddlers can muster. "They got, your stubbornness," Landon commented, appearing behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "My stubbornness?" Nora leaned back against him. "Lily spent 20 minutes yesterday trying to put her shoes on by herself because I can do it, Daddy. That's pure Hale DNA. Touché." He kissed her neck. "But Grace hums all the time like you, and they both give me those big-eyed looks when they want something. Definitely Callahan. Lucky for you. It works. Lucky for us." He spun her around in his arms. "Because I make the same face to you and it always works." Not always. Most of the time. You're impossible, Mr. Punctuality. And you're still gorgeous when you're annoyed, architect. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. That smile that belonged only to him after 5 years together, 3 of them married, and 2 little girls who had turned their world upside down in the best way possible. The doorbell rang, and seconds later, Eleanor's unmistakable voice echoed through the house. "Landon, where are my favorite nieces?" "They're your only nieces," Landon shouted back. "Details!" Eleanor entered the kitchen wearing jeans and a chic blouse, followed by a tall, dark-haired man with a kind smile. "I brought reinforcements. Nora, Landon, this is Dr. Marcus Webb, surgeon to the stars and my unfortunately attractive fiancé." "Unfortunately?" Marcus raised a brow. "Well, I had standards. You ruined them by being perfect." Eleanor waved a hand. "Now I have to admit love exists and all that. Very inconvenient for my cynical reputation." Marcus kissed the top of her head with obvious adoration. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you both officially," he said, shaking Landon's and Nora's hands. "I've heard a lot about you, and about the twins who are apparently the most adorable children in Tennessee." "That's not opinion," Eleanor said. "It's scientific fact." At that moment, the twins came running through the door, blonde hair flying, cheeks flushed from playing outside. "Aunt Ellie!" they shouted in unison, throwing themselves at her legs. Eleanor knelt down, hugging both at once, her face lighting up in a way that still sometimes surprised Landon, his tough, no-filter sister completely melted by 2 tiny girls. "Hello, my lovelies." She kissed them both. "I brought presents." "Presents!" Lily jumped. "Ellie, you don't have to bring presents." "Every time," Nora protested. "Of course I do. I'm the favorite aunt." "You're the only aunt." "Exactly. No competition. I get to spoil them as much as I want." She pulled 2 plush unicorn dolls from her bag. "Look, glow-in-the-dark unicorns." The twins squealed with delight, grabbing the toys and immediately inventing elaborate unicorn adventures. "You're creating little monsters," Landon warned. "That's the aunt's job," Eleanor said, standing up and brushing off her hands. "You do handle the boring parts. Discipline and vegetables. I handle the fun, nice sugar, and questionable gifts. At least these don't make noise," Marcus noted. "Remember those drums you gave them at Christmas? That was art. They were exploring their musicality. They were destroying our mental stability," Landon corrected, though he was smiling. Sophie arrived shortly after with her husband, a sweet country musician named Jake she'd met at one of the festivals and married 6 months later. "When you know," she'd said, and Nora couldn't argue. William showed up last, bringing May with him, and the 2 families blended seamlessly. Lunch in the garden, kids running around, adults laughing at old stories and making new ones. During a quiet moment while the twins napped inside and everyone else was distracted, Landon pulled Nora aside. "Come on, I want to show you something." He led her to his office, which also doubled as their music room, with the piano in the corner and shelves filled with her design books and his business reports in harmonious chaos. "What is it?" she asked. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder, handing it to her. Inside were architectural plans for a large, complex, beautiful building. "What is this?" Nora asked, eyes widening as she studied the drawings. "Remember that empty lot near Germantown? The one that always made you sigh and say it had wasted potential?" "Yes, I bought it." He watched her face. "And I want you to redesign it completely. Make it whatever you want, community center, art space, library, whatever your creative heart dreams up." Nora stared at him, speechless. "Landon, it must have cost a fortune." "I don't care about the cost." He took her hands. "For the past 3 years, you've balanced work, motherhood, and putting up with me. You've made pecan pie on Fridays even when you were exhausted. You've been an incredible wife, an incredible mother, an incredible designer. And I want to give you a gift, a project that's yours. No clients, no deadlines, no one telling you no. Just you, your vision, and all the resources you need." Her eyes filled with tears. "You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to." He touched her face. "Because you deserve to see your dreams built, not just build everyone else's." She kissed him, long and deep, full of years of love that had grown, been tested, and only strengthened because of it. "I love you," she whispered. "So much more every day." "Good." He rested his forehead against hers. "Because you're stuck with me. Forever. You, me, two impossible little girls with your smile and my stubbornness, and whatever other adventures life throws at us." Other adventures. She bit her lip. What if there's another adventure arriving in about 7 months? Landon blinked. "You're found out yesterday." She placed a hand over her still flat stomach. Surprise. For a moment he just stared at her, and then he laughed, that genuine deep laugh, and swept her into his arms, spinning her around. "Another baby. We're having another baby. Shh, you'll wake the twins. I don't care." But he gently set her down, his hands immediately going to her stomach. "Hi, little number 3. Welcome to the chaos. I hope you like music, pies, and 2 big sisters who are going to spoil you rotten." Nora laughed, tears streaming down her face, and Landon kissed her again, softer this time, full of promise and gratitude. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the twins were finally asleep, Nora sat at the piano. Landon was half asleep on the couch, but when he heard the first notes, his eyes opened. She was playing their song, the one that had started unfinished and ended that night at Franklin Estate when he proposed. But now there were new layers woven into it. Maturity, richness, history. It wasn't a song of longing anymore. It was a song of fulfillment, of promises kept, of love that had grown and deepened and become as much a part of them as breathing. When she finished, Landon got up and walked to her, pulling her from the piano bench into his arms, swaying slowly with her, even though there was no music playing. "You know," he murmured against her hair, "I still wait by the window on Fridays for you to come home with pie." "I know." She smiled against his chest. "I saw you yesterday. You still make that same face." "What face?" "The one that says I'm the most interesting part of your day." "You are the most interesting part of my day." He spun her gently. "You and pecan pie and 2, soon 3, amazing kids. And this impossible life we built together." "It's not impossible." Nora looked up at him, eyes shining. "Just improbable, and perfect, and completely ours." "Improbable," he repeated thoughtfully. "I like that. Improbable architect marries improbable businessman, builds improbable family and improbable life, and they're improbably happy, the most improbable thing of all." He kissed her forehead, "And I wouldn't change a single moment." She held him tighter, listening to the steady beat of his heart, strong, constant home, and she thought about how it all began, with a pie, with a promise to a father who was no longer there, with a man who'd looked at her with those gray-blue eyes, and seen something in her she hadn't yet seen herself, and how it had turned into this, a house full of love and laughter and little feet running, a piano that always had music, Fridays that still meant something special, and a love that had started as improbable and become inevitable. Outside, Nashville sparkled beneath the stars, their city, their life, their future stretching out endless and full of possibility. And inside, in the warmth of the home they'd built together, Nora Hale laid her head against her husband's chest and whispered, "Landon? I think I need to bake another pie tomorrow. I'm having that pregnant craving again." He laughed, the sound rumbling in his chest. "Then I'll be by the window, waiting, like always." "Like always," she echoed, and as they danced slowly in the living room, surrounded by the evidence of a well-lived life, family photos, forgotten toys, coffee mugs, and a piano that held all the songs of their hearts, Nora realized something essential. Some stories don't end. They simply continue, note by note, chapter by chapter, Friday after Friday, sweet as pecan pie and strong as Tennessee whiskey, complete not because they reached an ending, but because they found the perfect rhythm, that melody 2 people create together when they stop fighting the music and simply dance. And they danced, today, tomorrow, and all the days to come, together, as it was always meant to be. And so, between revealed secrets and transformed hearts, they discovered that true love arrives when you least expect it. Tell us in the comments, which moment struck your heart the most? If you loved this story, hit the like button, share it with someone who loves intense romances, and subscribe, because every week a new passion is waiting for you.